Good morning. Today let's study about the gross features of thalamus. Okay. Where is thalamus and what are the parts of thalamus? Thalamus, see, is the largest mass of gray matter. You can see it is the largest mass of gray matter which is present inside the cerebral hemisphere. This thalamus has got an anterior pole and a posterior pole. You can see there are two poles for the thalamus, the anterior pole and the posterior pole, and it has got four surfaces: the superior surface, the inferior surface, the medial surface. You can see this part is the medial surface, which will be related to the third ventricle. Okay, the medial surface is related to the medial surface will form the lateral wall of the third ventricle, and we have the lateral surface. This lateral surface will be related to the internal capsule. The lateral surface will be related to the internal capsule. So this is actually the thalamus. This is the thalamus. The lateral surface is related to this mass of white matter is called the internal capsule, which is V-shaped fibers. Okay, these are the projection fibers. V-shaped projection fibers, internal capsule. Laterally it is related to the internal capsule. Okay. If you take a section, you see this is actually the thalamus. Okay, this is actually the thalamus. The anterior end will be located, this is the anterior pole. The anterior pole will be located just behind the interventricular foramen. This is the interventricular foramen. Anterior pole will be located just in front of the interventricular, just behind it. Okay, just behind the interventricular foramen. And the posterior end is otherwise called the pulvinar part. You can see this specimen, this is the posterior end, and this projected part here is called the pulvinar part. Okay, the posterior end is the pulvinar part, or the posterior pole is called the pulvinar part. Pulvinar part. This pulvinar part is located above and lateral to the superior colliculus. Okay, this is located above and lateral to the superior colliculus. The inferior surface of the posterior end bears two projections, two bulged portions here. Okay, these are called the medial geniculate body, and this is the lateral geniculate body. Okay, this is the medial geniculate body and this is the lateral geniculate body. As you see, the medial geniculate body is associated with the auditory pathway. Okay, this medial geniculate body is associated with auditory pathway, and the lateral geniculate body is associated with optic pathway. Okay, you can see the optic. Now this is optic chiasma, this is optic tract. It is ending in the lateral geniculate body. You can see it is ending in lateral geniculate. From there the optic radiations will go to the visual cortex. Okay, so that is the lateral geniculate body, which is associated with visual pathway, and the medial geniculate body, which will be associated with the auditory pathway. The medial surface, since it forms a lateral wall of the third ventricle, it is actually lined by the ependyma. Okay, it is lined by the ependyma, that is the ventricles, the epithelium covering the ventricles. Okay, it will be lined by ependyma. And one more thing, the medially, the two thalamus are connected by the mass of gray matter here. This is called the interthalamic adhesions. We can see this adhesion, which is connecting the two thalamus here. You can see this. Okay, that is actually the interthalamic adhesion, which is connecting the two thalamus. You can see that is the adhesion. Okay. It is connecting the two thalamus. Okay, which is connecting the two thalamus here. Okay, that is actually the gray matter. If you take the medial section, so this area is the third ventricle. You can see this is the thalamus. This thalamus is separated from hypothalamus. This area is the hypothalamus. This area is the hypothalamus. Separated from the hypothalamus by a sulcus, which is running from the interventricular foramen to the aqueduct. Okay, this sulcus is called hypothalamic sulcus. The sulcus is called hypothalamic sulcus, which will be separating the thalamus from the hypothalamus. Okay, which will be separating the thalamus from the hypothalamus. This sulcus is called the hypothalamic sulcus, which will be running from the interventricular foramen to the aqueduct. This is the aqueduct which is leading to the fourth ventricle. Okay, which will be leading to the fourth ventricle. Third ventricle to fourth ventricle is connected by aqueduct of Sylvius. This is the aqueduct. Okay, so this is the hypothalamus, thalamus. This is the hypothalamic sulcus. So these are all the important parts of thalamus. Thank you.